So, dear all participants, I welcome to all of you for this our last session of this course, Heritage Studies Fundamentals of Conservation and Documentation. मैं आप सभी का यहाँ पर स्वागत करता हूँ और मैं सभी को रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ कि हमारा सेशन जब खत्म होने को आएगा उस समय आप सभी अपना वीडियो ऑन करेंगे लास्ट टाइम में, क्योंकि हम सब का एक स्क्रीनशॉट लेना चाहते हैं एट द लास्ट। मैं ये पहले इसलिए बता रहा हूँ ताकि जो लोग तैयार नहीं है वो लोग तैयार हो सकेंगे। सो दिस इज काइंड रिक्वेस्ट और मैं सिंधु जी से विनती करता हूँ कि कृपया आज के अपने इस सत्र की शुरुआत करें।
Namaskar to all. Thank you, sir. We have come to almost the end of the sessions, and I shall start by sharing the video screen.
It's okay, visible.
Yes. Okay. Today's session will be slightly different. It will be a culmination session, and therefore we do a quick recap of all we did till now, and also a small thing that I would like to share about how I, planned this course and a couple of other things. In this session today, we will focus on community heritage and also the conservation status today, where we will be covering intellectual heritage, intangible heritage quickly, and also rural and urban heritage, and also share few glimpses. I would say glimpses because it's really a screenshot kind of a thing, because there's so much activities happening today. I am unable to cover them all. So it will be really like a trailer. It will be a glimpse of what is happening currently today. Various issues that is around us. So we'll have a quick, look at those things and maybe discuss a little bit on way forward and of course what I learned from this session before we go to question answer part. Now for the recap, I think I'll have to start, with the story where it all started, the current course that I'm planning. It all started in the year 2017 when I went to Pampa Kshetra, which is nothing but Hampi in Karnataka, with my family and friends. And like usual, my habit is to take a quick sketch of whatever I see, and probably because I'm an architect, my focus is largely on the heritage in terms of its tangible manifestation. So while the guide goes on talking about it, I hear and I try to quickly draw. I was doing this and, a small incident happened, which kind of triggered my, the whole interest as to regarding the course, actually, the whole thing. It so happened that, when I was doing this particular, popular chariot of Hampi, Vithala temple, I happened to see a family, a huge family, father, mother, and a lot of kids. And father trying to put all the little ones up on this chariot for a photograph. And I was trying to sketch this, and I was quite disturbed. You can see the drawing, which is horrendous, like, it is improportional. And I got so disturbed that, I left it halfway and I really could not complete this or do it as I really wanted to. For the simple reason that, I was caught with the this whole scene where parents were trying to put all the children up on this to take a photograph. And nobody there, people who are the security or anybody objecting to this. I tried to politely, put across this to them that, it's a heritage. Why do you want to sit and take? You can stand and take in front of it, where, you will see the heritage as well, nicely. But, they didn't like the idea, and I got back very unpleasant comments and things like that. That is one thing which kind of, triggered me to think, like, what is it that I can really do about this? Because I am not trained by profession as a conservation architect, but it's just the interest. And I think all of us in this session are very similar in our attitude that, we need to do something about this. And this experience, followed by another small incident, led to another outcome, which I'll discuss in some time. The same family, we met outside, and they were trying to buy something which was of heritage value, and then they were going on bargaining, and they pulled out everything. Finally, they bought nothing, and after that they went to a food stall, and they were like literally spurging money over the food so much, and they had to bargain so much of this heritage value, and yet they did not buy anything. This also kind of stayed with me for a long time. And these two experiences kind of made me really think as to what can I do, particularly to bring in awareness. I mean, it's not just about teaching kids, but it is the general public in our country who need to be aware of these things. They come as tourists, but they look at everything as somebody else's property. This is exactly where one of you very correctly pointed out that the sense of belonging. So I am not from this place. This heritage is just a picnic spot for me. This does not belong to me, so I don't feel anything towards this property. I mean, this is exactly what I did experience. And this kind of got me thinking that we should no more think about our locality. As a citizen of our country, what is it that we need to do, and how we need to bring in awareness as a Indian, as a Bharat Desh citizen, and therefore we can respect all the properties across the country, without with the feeling of sense of belonging, like that thing. So this kind of led me to formulate what is it that one should really know to do this, I mean, to respect this. That is when I kind of a lot of things came into my mind, like what are the aspects, conservation, the heritage aspects that one should be aware of, the values and significance that is associated with these heritage, and what should be the conservation ethics, and some of the points relating to this is a World Heritage Site. So I felt people should also have the knowledge of World Heritage Site. And then there are a couple of other instances where I have come across very bad conservation practice around. People really doing a bad job of restoring heritage property. So that's when I realized that at least if we are aware of the fundamentals as to conservation practice, perhaps if not do it by ourselves, can at least monitor if somebody is doing we can at least monitor that activity with our knowledge. So that's when I felt there is a lot to do with this. And also people should have the current idea of the status of these heritage properties largely. So this kind of not for this course, because the course wasn't yet there when I was thinking about all these things, because I was not equipped with the knowledge. I'm just an architect, and I'm a habitat designer. I'm not qualified as a conservationist or conservation architect. So I don't really know much about conservation to bring in any kind of awareness if I really wanted to. So what can I do? Then the next thing that I did was, I did a lot of, short courses on archaeology. I did courses on architectural preservation and, conservation courses, and distinct courses, of course. And also I worked with, as an outsider, not as a member intact, but as an outsider. I joined hands with some of the conservation architects who were working on Somnathpur project. The proposal was like the temple as a monument by ASI, it is restored, conserved, and preserved, but around the temple, the scene is very bad. All the heritage houses, houses which were of century old and still, sort of in good condition. Some, of course, were very dilapidated because people had left those houses and they are now defunct. But at least the first fringe around the temple should be restored in its original way, the traditional way that they were planned, and they were looked. They were very typical and very beautiful with a lot of aesthetics in them, and they were all pulled off because people wanted to build concrete buildings, modern so-called modern houses, and they had no guidance. They were not guided or given any incentives by government to protect or restore their own properties, their own houses, and that's why it was all changing. And our proposal was largely to look at these, to document these houses in terms of its plan and aesthetic value and all. We did a report, and then we sent it to the government, requesting them that certain typology, certain guidelines to be given for people who are, and also help, financial help, that was largely required by the locals there, to restore and retain their heritage around the temple. I mean, it is not just the temple. There's a lot of heritage around it that needs focus and protection. So this one hands-on exercise also kind of give me larger understanding of people perspective and things like that. And also I did a lot of research and studies to equip myself. And finally, like I was mentioning, the other incident which happened in Hampi, where they were bargaining so much for the beautiful rosewood inlay, actually, and they did not finally buy it. That really hurt me, because we don't bargain with anybody else, especially the food people. We just pay them how much ever they ask, and we eat that unhealthy thing on the roadside, with least bothering about our health. But then when it comes to such a valuable heritage treasure, we hesitate a lot, we bargain a lot to buy them. And in fact, when you buy them, you're investing in something good, which stays with you, at home for a longer time than what you would have consumed as a food. So this kind of led also to me to co-found Prathama Shrishti, which I'll talk about in some time. So after all these things, I felt a little confident, and I felt, okay, something that I can do. I have little knowledge about this conservation things and all. Now I have to bring in some kind of awareness. Or I felt a lot of people who the receiving end, who would be for this, should be something what I have today, fortunately, in this forum. I was not ready to give this to the students or anybody who belong to the profession, because they already know something. And this what I'm talking about is all very fundamental, which is basic knowledge that one should have if they really care about heritage in our country. So something very fundamental and basic that I was ready to give, but I wanted people who were genuinely interested. So I kind of identified who should be my audience, or whom should I share this with. So I wanted people with entrepreneurs interest, concerns, who were eager on knowing more, to be a part of conservation of our heritage. And this kind of excluded all the people who are professionally connected to conservation. I did not want architects or conservationists or anybody who's working with this for this. And then people who are keen but have less idea about conservation in India. There's no point in giving the same thing to people who already know about all these things. So I wanted genuine people who would be interested and may not know as much as this. So they would be the right people to share this knowledge with, and people who have the potential to make a difference. This is put in the last, but I think they should come in the first, because eventually, all said and done, the whole purpose of this course is to kind of trigger that conservation attitude and help those who are really going to make any difference in this field. And I think all had some interaction in the previous sessions. I've realized that this is one of the best audience I've had for this, and that's really what I wanted. So this led to the course. Now the next thing was what should be the forum where I would be discussing, because most of the forums that I come across as an educator will be largely the institutions and students and faculties and people who are in the profession, who know about all these things most of the time. So that's when I was at the right time exposed to DACR and Heritage Foundation Jalgaon, and to Bhujanga Bobde sir, who kind of was very kind to give me this platform to share this knowledge, however little it is. So I really thank him for this. And this is how this course happened, and the course was formed. Today, let's start. The community heritage. Now, one of the questions in the previous session also was regarding that: are all the heritage religion related and temples? Like we began in the session one itself, heritage means everything from provenances to built heritage to intangible heritage to intellectual heritage. We'll have a little, insight about intellectual heritage today. But to start with, we look at community heritage. When we say community heritage, this precisely belongs to a community, and this is something that is developed as an indigenous activity within that community, and it is very geographically delineated. In our country, specifications for preservation and cultural property, they vary from country to country, depending on the nature of historical past that they have, and changes which have caused because of development and modernization. In India, unlike the West, we still have so much of heritage and abundance, actually, of our past in our midst, that we are often referred as a traditional society. Now, the emerging issue in this context is the attitudes that we will develop to determine the value and the tradition and our cultural heritage. All of this will have future implications. Now, this emphasizes the need to develop an ethics of conservation in our society with respect to all of this variety of cultural properties that we have. India being the oldest and continuous civilization in this world, and having so much of evidence of our past, which kind of evokes not only wonder at the achievements of our ancestors, but empathy and emotional involvement as well. And this is where we will start today. At the same time of our where we have so much of diversity in our culture, with several religious historical incidents and aspirations, we we all kind of exist together, coexisting in discrete geographical regions. So under this circumstances, one blanket policy or a rule for conservation definitely will not suffice. And that's where we have so many institutions and so many different layers of organization who come in to focus different kind of things. um, Customarily, such properties broadly divided as movable and immovable. And in the past few sessions, we have largely spoken about the immovable cultural properties. But today, let's focus a little more on the traditional community heritage that we can say. Um, we see colorful handloom saris, and they are sought after by almost every one of us who want to look beautiful in saris. But tragically, this industry has come to a screeching halt at several centers in India, with diminishing number of looms and younger generations precisely refusing to be involved in continuing this tradition. The future actually seems very bleak. Country is surging ahead, guided by
Sindhuji, your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, it's okay now.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So this is where we must, recognize the continuities of our craft skills, and cultural geography determining the craft becomes more important, and to create an environment where they can sustain in is our larger intention. So when I say community heritage, we now come to something very important in the recent times that has happened, in our country. That according to WTO agreement, it's on the trade related aspects of intellectual properties, which is called as TRIPS. Geographical indications are the indicators which identify a good or goods as originating in a territory of a member. It could be a single person territory, or it could be a village, or it could be a specific location, where a given quality, reputation, and characteristics of all these goods is essentially attributed to its geography of origin, largely because it comes from that place because of the availability of raw material and their practices responding to the climate and geological aspects around. So geographical indication can be defined as a form of intellectual property. It is a tag given to a intellectual property, identification given to an intellectual property, a certification or a sign or a name given to certain goods, like it could be a food product or an agricultural product or a handicraft product, that are unique to a particular geographical region or location. Here the focus is, along with the product, it is also the geography or place from where that particular indigenous heritage has been evolved or first seen or originated, one can say. So the tag ensures the quality and essential attributes of a food product or a handicraft product or an agricultural product in a specific location. Now, it also ensures that no other than the authorized users can use the GI tag product name. The moment it is geographically, it is recognized by the government as a GI tag product, the importance of it and the relevance of it being an authentic product of the country goes high. Immediately it is recognized, and the whole scenario for that product perhaps changes. So some important factors of GI tag would be like, it is only valid for 10 years. And after 10 years, you need to review it every 10 years, actually. And the first product which was awarded in India was Darjeeling tea. And this was in 2004 and 5. Very, very recent development in this context. And Karnataka has the highest number of GI tags. We have about 47 products with GI tags, which is again followed by Tamil Nadu, which has about 39 products. Now, this doesn't mean that the other states and other parts of the country doesn't have anything indigenous. It just means that people here have been little more proactive and worked enough to get the recognition of GI tag. That's about it. And this is something which happens from the community side. It is not like government comes and recognizes you. It is you recognize yourself and produce enough documents, and put in everything that ensure declares its authenticity and everything. The whole indigenous thing and making of the project. Everything has to be documented, and enough evidences of historical references, because one thing that you need to ensure also is that the product is quite old, in the sense that it has evolved over centuries, so it has to have a historical significance to it. And all of these certain conditions that the GI tag expects, all of that has to be very meticulously documented and presented to the government, and government will then check all of that, and then finally the process of giving GI tag will be taken up by government. Now, these are two, three visuals that we have here. This is just to show examples. There are so many different varieties of indigenous products which have got GI tag. I've just picked up few just for you all to get a hang of it. That's it. And this is Mizo traditional shawls that you see on the left. These are traditional shawls of Mizo people. Originally, this belonged to Mesos, and the GI tag is necessary because they need to retain ownership. They have ownership issues and originality of the traditional shawls to maintain that the process, traditional process of weaving it. It becomes very important for them to apply for GI tag. The moment this is applied, the cultural significance of it kind of is enhanced. Here, it is owned only, by very courageous warriors among those Mizo men as a symbol of their bravery. So it has a very significant value attached to it, and this is the most colorful, full, and popular among the other shawls that they have. It is a wrap around, which you wrap it around your waist, very colorful. And here, GI tag was very much needed for them because they wanted to secure the process of making, and they were fighting for the place where it was originated. There are a lot of weavers. So this particular community who weave this indigenous shawls have claimed, and they have got the GI tag now. And the other one on the right that you see here are dindigal locks. Now, and bottom, you see Kandangi sari. So the famous Dandigal locks are known throughout the world actually for their superior quality and durability. And so much so that even the city is called Lock City. Dandigal is called Lock City. Both these products were losing their sheen in the market, and they were hoping that GI tag would help them get some recognition. And these locks manufacturing units are very limited to a very small area, actually, about just 5 kilometers in and around Dindigal. And there are about 50 varieties of locks these artisans make here. And Kandangi sari manufactured in Shivaganga district largely. And they are also facing the similar challenges as that of Dindigal's locks. Here, the person who's got the GI tag, that is, Shri Krishnaveni, they and Mahalakshmi Handloom Weaving Center, they say that GI tag for this sari is very, very essential because the original sari is losing its importance because of the other market trends where they bring in a lot of duplicate saris and claim as Kandangi saris. So this kind of really resulted in the decline of the community, which does it very, very indigenously, very traditionally. The original sari is actually manually made using a winding machine, loom and shuttle and bobbin. It is a team effort actually of the families who live in this town of Karekudi, and it forms a part of their livelihood. So they are actually fighting a survival issue here. These saris, are beautiful. They are characterized by large contrast borders, and some of them are known for their borders covering as much as 2/3 of the saris. So, what is current oak today is not really current. That was there always. So many years back, they had that fashion of having 3/4 of the sari border, and these saris are usually about 5.5 meters in length, and they come in exuberant colors: bright yellow, orange, red, and very minimal black traditional patterns or stripes or checks, which kind of complements the borders. They are all woven in coarse cotton. So over the years, more interesting colors have been introduced in this weaving. So they have tried to keep abreast with the trends and fashions, but despite that, because of the market condition which produces a lot more synthetic and duplicate ones, they are finding today's survival issues. So these are some of the issues that they are facing, and that's when they have gone in for GI indications or GI tags, which they are hoping that would help pick up their market opportunities. So like I said, okay, before I talk about this, I would like to put in a disclaimer saying that I'm not really talking for the publicizing or the talk for the organization and the business attitude, but it's just that the whole story which led to this Prathama Shrishti is interesting, and objectives are very important. And that's the relevance of this discussion, particularly with respect to Prathama Shrishti. Like I said, what led to this was that one incident where that family was, really trying to bargain, and that's when I tried to question, what are the ways in which we can do something with this, something for these people, artisans, particularly, creative artisans. Um, and also at the same time, I in my college I was exposed to entrepreneurial activities. I was representing architecture department under EDC, entrepreneur development cell, where I got exposed to a lot of things, and I felt that I could contribute more to the society. And this is what came into my mind at that time. And fortunately, my brother, who is actually an IT guy, also was, searching for something to begin with. And both of us sat, and we kind of, brainstormed. A session happened, and we were trying to think on what. I was more keen on looking at architecture and heritage and temples and things like that. Um, Naturally, but he was looking at more in terms of, business, something that is viable as a business. So together we looked at, uh, you know the ultimate agenda was to do something to the society. And that's when, with a lot of research, we realized that GI tag would be a nice opportunity for us to open a forum where we can look at the issues in a very different way. Apart from being entrepreneurs, this would be the platform also to reach our goal of protecting and helping people, artisans particularly, to protect their heritage. So GI tag was founded in, Prathama Shrishti was founded in 2017. Here, the GI tag, why did we look at GI tag? Because we were claiming for authenticity. We wanted to buy something directly from those people who were producing those craft. We didn't want any middleman. And then also we wanted to keep our margins very, very low, because the objective would be to bring in more awareness to people and appreciate these handicrafts, and therefore to increase the demand for them, and eventually buying more, and creating demand would also help indirectly the artisans who can make more and earn more. So we have a lot of other plans. I'll not get into that detail, but precisely Prathama Shrishti came up with these two distinctive objectives. The GI tag awarded by Government of India preserves the unique identity of a place in relation with the product, securing the authenticity of the product. Now, for us to prove the authenticity, it would not be difficult, because any GI tag product should go through that vigorous, intense check before they are given this tag of proving the authenticity of the product. So they would have done the exercise. So it would not be difficult. That would not come under us to do so. That was one. And secondly, the tag also means that the traditional art is specific to community, representing the cultural identity where it takes its birth. So that was very, very important for us, identifying those communities who are really, really working hard, and struggling to see their livelihood through this extremely creative and superbly produced artifacts and handicrafts, I must say. And then the second objective was to act like a nexus between enthusiastic people, patrons of art, who actually seek for authentic artists who are engaged in creating them. So we wanted to kind of create the bridge for both of them, one who seek for authentic works and the other who are producing them. And here, though, we become the middle man in connecting that link between the two. Our agenda is largely again to focus on the community, artisans community. And when we were doing the groundwork, we realized that there are many people who don't even know about GI tag. And for us to buy the product from an authentic source, that means the person should have the authorization from the government as a GI author, producer, or a manufacturer. If that certificate is not there, then we cannot buy those goods from them, because the moment they get the certificate, it means that that individual organization or an individual will has that authentic product done in the similar way. So this brings to us a very challenging thing, that our commuting and search for authentic people led to the realization that there are many who are doing so much of good indigenous work, but they don't know how to claim GI tag, and they also don't know they don't have money also to do that. So this is where we felt that we need to work for them. I will say again, we are not NGOs, we are not non-government organization where we get source funding from outside. All the seed money is ours, our savings and all. And we are an enterprise only. We have a business, we have our margins, but it is very, very less. But our ultimate objective of Prathama Shrishti is to work for the welfare of these endangered art and handicrafts, and join hands with government to upgrade these artisans who are the core of India's intellectual property. So with that objective, we found this in 2017, and I've shared the website. If anybody is interested, can just take a look at it for more information. And this here, the other thing also was to educate people with lot of information about the way that particular product is done and or manufactured, and highlighting the unique points of those and eco-friendly nature of that for each of these products. So certain things are all available on the website, which is more information and education oriented, which is also a part of the objective. So with that, we look at some more of conservation, heritage, and all of that. But here, this particular example, the point that I would want to share is that conservation is a continuous process. It is not like ASI does something today and the work is done. There are a lot of issues which keep coming recurringly, and it's a continuous process that they have to do. The third stage, if we recollect, that is the important stage where it is maintained for life. So that's where this example becomes more relevant. I'm talking about Golconda Fort in Hyderabad. Now there was this heading, Golconda Fort comes back to life in December 2018, 23rd. And here, the conservation and landscaping efforts in the inner area of the Golconda Fort actually rewrote the history of the structure and left visitors spellbound, because they were not not only making a lot of discoveries while they were trying to renovate this project ASI, but they were also transforming the transformation of the restoration part of those particular few buildings actually took them on a different forum, and that happened because of the policy change. Now that's where it is important. Whenever the conservation policies are written and declarations are given, it is not the end. They always get revised and rewritten depending on the context and the situation. So here also, fortunately, in the 2018, a change in ASI policy came. This is policy which allowed reconstruction in transforming the historic structure. But again, they specified with that could be done only if the structure is really needs that, and also that they have enough evidence to do so, to reconstruct. If they should have enough evidence as it was or as it looked like in the past, with either photographs or historical records, which gives the visual clarity and material clarity, construction clarity, and things like that. So earlier, this policy was only to preserve a structure without touching it, without meddling with it. Now this policy changed the whole thing, like, where they could reconstruct or build any structure if they really had an evidence. And that led to the restoration of Nobat Khana in this, which is a ceremonial drum house. And that kind of changed the whole context. But that was in 2018. In 2019, 5th December, There was another news floating where Officer of Archaeological Survey of India mentioned that this historic monument, Golconda Fort, is likely to lose World Heritage tag. Now they're doing so much of restoration and renovation and trying to do a lot of things, but this kind of really shocked. Now here the things that he claimed was that renovation of Golconda Fort have remained unfulfilled as they planned. That was largely due to the negligence and carelessness of the officials, unfortunately, and the lofty claims that to dislodge the illegal possessions. They were all very unsuccessful in doing so, and the issue was that it had to have two entrances, as in one entrance and exit. Because it was taking the footfall of about 4 lakh visitors every day. And that was something which was taken up by Dr. Milan and he did propose a change for having two entrances, but that could not be done because the standards up to the standards of World Heritage, and due to the constraints they could not follow that. And that the concern was that this could lead to the loss of designation, because it does not match up to the standards of the World Heritage designation. So that stands there. And what happened in 2020, did that stop anything with respect to restoration or conservation in that place? Not really. They went on and did a lot of other things. There are so many other trusts which are working for culture and heritage. One such important one is Aga Khan Trust for Culture. So they also have involved in doing a lot of renovations, and largely with Islamic structures in India. There is this historic Qutub Shahi tombs. There have been remarkable change in the last few years since the time when this AKTC trust took the work of restoration in this. Actually, this historic Qutub Shahi tombs, they have been they were they were there are about 80 structures in that royal necropolis, and most of them are being restored to their lost glory by now. And the interpretation center is also planned, and I think that is the building is currently going on. Now, the point is, it has a lot of historic significance. And I believe Qutub Shahi rulers lived here and they ruled from this Golconda. And therefore, historically, it's a very significant place where all the kings and family members, they were all buried here. And ultimate thing that they are planning to do now is after all these renovations, to connect them to be seen in conjunction with the fort, Golconda Fort, architecturally, they are planning to connect. So when that happens, probably, the whole scenario changes again. So these are some of the works which are happening in the urban context in terms of historical, significant places, which are all world sites, historical sites. And moving forward, let's look at briefly what is happening with community heritage in rural context. Now, I have spoken about this very briefly in my earlier session. This is Red Earth and Hard Work, Maluti Temple Groups. This is in deep hinterlands of village of Maluti. This bears a testimony for more than 300 years old and more than 70 exquisite terracotta-rich temple architecture here. And I believe once this was home for 108 temples. And of course, now the village is in poor shadow of the past. But however, the about 70 to 72 shrines which are remaining, the sheer number, the number itself put this heritage into the map of Indian heritage, India actually. With intricate terracotta carvings of mythical scenes on their facades of walls, which have survived harsh weather and the ravages of time since early 17th century. These temples were neglected for so long, are now being looked at for restoration. Now this also happened again with a very important context here. that Indian Trust for Rural Heritage and Development took the restoration. Now, briefly, to just to give you all a historical background of these temples, these temples are in five different groups. They are dotted in five different clusters, so to say. Sikir Taraf, Rajarbari, Madhyabari, and Choi Taraf, and Molishka temple complex. Now, Chala architecture inspired by traditional Bengal huts, as you see in the visual, with their sloping roofs, with curved edges, is a very distinctive feature of Malti temples. In 17th century, actually, the masonry technique used was molded bricks, and they have been applied extensively around that time, where all these terracotta plaques, they were neither carved on the wall nor were they like stuccos. Rather, they were stuck on using a special glue or a paste called vajralepa. And this was a mixture which was prepared by the locals using the local sand. Now, that was the main ingredient. And they also used betel nut, they used horsehair, coconut fibers, and also, as an aggregate, brick powder and molasses. All of this as estrogen made, from trees, and oligum resin, beeswax. These are some of the ingredients which they use to create this vajralepa, and allowing the mixture to decompose on the wall surfaces and as they cut. So something like this was done, and the Indian Trust for Rural Heritage and Development, which actually took over this project restoration, which with the passage of time, they were almost crumbling, and largely due to the lack of maintenance. Several of them have been also overgrown by vegetation. This was something that we discussed in the last session. So several panels have also been taken over time, by people. They have removed it, they have vandalized it. But the Bihar government did repair the temples in 1985 and 86, just a gap of year. And that also happened because one of the person who was living in that village was a teacher, and he wrote to the government and requested them to do something about it. Followed up with them in such vigor, and finally they had no choice but to come and see this. They did something, but not sustained maintenance after that. Also led to, and largely because there is no local manpower to handle conservation on a regular basis. This technique required to be maintained. It cannot be done and left for hundreds of years to just be like that. So they require regular maintenance, and that didn't happen. And until Jharkhand's taboo was based on temples. In Republic Day parade, recently also we had Republic Day, I think on the first day itself, 26th, or second day, 26th. In 2015, they actually portrayed these Maluti temples, and that kind of caught the national spotlight, and subsequently the restoring work was given to these ITR HD. But the concern here now is the Varisa methods. Now um, you know, um, they are saying that the guidelines are being grossly flouted. The iron, cement, and chemical colors are being used instead of the natural colors. But there is also a claim by ITR HD itself that the conservation method is proved by ASI. And they are saying that they've already completed 20 temples, restoring 20 temples, and they say it was not very easy for them also to do that. They had difficulty in finding right masons who are experienced with this kind of construction, terracotta construction. They took a lot of aid from the ASI team, where a lot of workers have been working for them with such kind of activities from long. So they used burnt clay bricks, lakhwari in the as they call it in the local place, with lime crushed bricks aggregate surki mortar, and also molasses and marshmallows as ingredients to create those things, which they also used in 300 years ago. So they are trying to say that they are really conforming to the conservation things. But then historians have given enough proof to say that they are not, especially when it comes to the colors, that chemically mixed colors that they are using to paint it red is of concern. So this is concern of aesthetic value and integrity value, material integrity and structural integrity. So these are some of the things which is there, with a lot of examples other than this as well. But we'll also look at take a little quick glimpse on biodiversity heritage, where this is Nallur Tamarind Grove. This is about 54 acres, Devnalli Taluk, Bangalore rural. So we are looking at the rural context, right? So this is a natural heritage. What's happening here also is, Bangalore rural, they have got couple of, what do you say, declarations from the government, from Karnataka government, state government, as to heritage sites. And that has been very helpful for them to protect these natural sites. It is this particular one is very popularly believed to be, having relic of Chola dynasty, which was ruling these places about 800 years ago. And there are about 300 trees and a dynamic pattern of plant diversity in this region. So these are some of the temples which are there in the locality, and architecture clearly talks about Chola intervention in these, and shows that probably Cholas built these temples. So that's the site of Nalluru, which already has recognition as a biodiversity heritage site in Karnataka. And the other one is Ambara Gudda, Shivamogga also has something similar. But what is interesting, what is happening today or currently, is that government is also trying to look at these 4 important sites. That is Antargange Betta, Adi Narayana Swami Betta, and then Mahimaranga Betta, and then Urumbi area in Kumaradhara River Basin. So these are the 4 other identified sites for biodiversity heritage. And this one particularly, the Antaranga Betta, that's very unique, and it has perennial water source flowing all through the year. And Adi Narayana Swami Betta is, in Gudubendit Taluk, Chikkabellapura, actually close to Bangalore, has dry belt species, where which are presently protected by the locals. Now they're requesting the forest department and government to protect it. And Mahimaranga Betta is a prominent lung space for all the surviving who are in Bengaluru. That's the green lung space that we have. And Urumbi area is it's a very fragile environmental system that's located in the banks of river Kumaradhara. Here, I believe there was a proposal for hydroelectric plant from some private company, and at that time they had IAC Bengaluru had done an intensive research, and they had intervened and they had studied the Western Ghats at that time, and they have mentioned that there are about 47 plant species, all endemic to Western Ghats, and particularly 3 species are very critical, endangered, and they all are there here. And if this project happens, then they would all face threat and ultimately submerge. That was the concern expressed by them, and that's why they are now focusing on that with recognition or heritage site protection from the government. These biodiversity heritage sites, they're all considered unique and very fragile ecosystems, coastal, be it coastal or inland waters or territorial areas. By notifying an area under biodiversity heritage site, they believe that it will help and protect the rich and unique ecosystem of a particular area from future destruction. And currently the forest department has already taken steps. They're already surveying the areas for earmarking the borders and documentation before issuing the notification and the declaration. The process that they have to do, they have already started. That's the status. And another interesting thing, many such interesting things are happening around. One example would be, they're waiting for clarification. So this one is Purandara Dasa's birthplace, Now, widely held belief is that he was born in what we see as geographically today's Maharashtra. But Malnad claimed that he hailed from this region, from Karnataka, Shumaga Tirtili Taluk region. And to explore definitive archaeological evidences that put an end to the speculation whether he belonged to this place or Maharashtra, some research interest, intense research activities is going on regarding his birthplace. Actually, he is as a father figure of Carnatic music. He's the father of Carnatic music, and they have given this to Department of Hampi and Archaeology and Heritage Museum, and they will commence the work. Research work. They've already commenced in Keshapura and around this taluk. The context is that the historical evidence that they try to produce was that Purandara Vithala was his pen name, and all his composition ended with Purandara Vithala, and that was the widely believed that this mystic poet was probably born in Purandara Gad, Maharashtra. But lot of other evidences, like according to the historians, Araga in Malnad was a buzzing commercial center during Vijayanagara rule, the same period when Purandara Dasa belonged. So, referring to the places around Keshavapura, it was also the place where the merchant community belonged. That kind of reflects Purandara Dasa's story also, that he was Srinivasa Nayaka prior to, he was a merchant, gold merchant, prior to him becoming or taking Dasatva. So, Nayaka is a title given to somebody who is very influential and a merchant who is wealthy in this region. So, these are some of the things that they claim and try to speculate, to put an end to the speculation whether he was born here or there. So, to solve this mystery, like I said, the birthplace of Purandara Dasa, they have directed Hampi to form an expert committee where all the members have found enough evidence now to conclude that the devotional poet was born here. So, but they are preparing the next dossiers and documents and all. The left one is a ancient temple in that place, and the right is an idol showing the local is showing the idol, which talks about something very relevant in the context that we're talking about. So this is where I think the local people should become very active and involve themselves in helping to discern such discrepancies in rural context. And of course, let's come back to urban context and look at what's happening here. I'm talking about in Intact Bangalore because I'm from Bangalore and I'm more comfortable talking. I know this place, but Intact is doing immense amount of work in all the regional chapters. This is the recent achievements of Intact. The very important one is like from 2 years they were working on this nomination dossier for including all the sacred ensembles of Hoysala temples in UNESCO list of World Heritage Site. So that was a major project that they were working on, and they have already finished that and have submitted. So this was prepared by the Department of Archaeology, Museum and Heritage, Government of Karnataka, who will now take the process of nomination forward. So apart from that, in the last month, they also published a book of stories for children, between 9 to 10 and above. The book has 11 exciting stories about Bangalore by 11 different authors. The book takes you on a whirlwind tour of the city in its past, from about 2,000 years ago to today. So children will have an exposure of the city they live in. So that one initiative was taken. Of course, apart from that, two major projects that they recently did was very important. One is on the left hand, you see the high school. This is 114-year-old building, the first high school that was built in earthly princely state of Mysore. So when what used to be a very off-white and was in a very dilapidated condition until recently, the new restoration kind of given it a red paint and look. I believe the evidence was a person who has studied in the school. Now, Baswangudi resident B.N. Prahalada Rao, who is now about 96 years old, he happened to study in Fort High School between 1936 to 1940, and he remembered very clearly that the building exterior had red color, and those days all the government buildings and offices were all painted red. So with lot of other evidences and thing, they have managed to restore this back, and that project has been completed. And the other project on the right hand side, what you see is a Bangalore gate. This is a 19th century heritage structure, and this is located in Chamrajpet, known as Bangalore Gate or Octroy Post. I believe this was used to a post where they collected tax for those who entered the city from Mysore Gate, I believe. So all these, on the highways that we have, the toll gates is not a new idea. That was there always existing. So people entering in into a city or going out of a city had to pay these kind of taxes, which was always prevailing. So this project also is almost complete now. So these are the achievements of intact Bangalore chapter. I'm sure there will be a lot more in other chapters as well. So we'll quickly run again, a quick look on urban heritage. And this is important because this is the last and the recent one which got World Heritage Site recognition. I'm sure all of you would recognize this city, Ahmedabad, historic town, the old city, fort city of Ahmedabad. This is about 600 years old, and this is now joined the ranks of all Paris, Vienna, Cairo, Rome, Edinburgh, to name a few, in the World Heritage City map, so to say. And what you see on the right side is all the tangible and intangible intellectual heritage property of this particular place. So conservation and restoration of this traditional houses in walled city of Ahmedabad had a lot of objectives. I'm just naming very few, where conservation and adaptive enrichment of urban heritage was the focus. And they also wanted to retain or reintegrate the traditional building crafts, but in a contemporary construction way. And propagating the traditional technique was their ultimate aim. And also they wanted to integrate planning systems. That means upgrading the infrastructure was one of the important tasks that they had to do. The conservation does not mean you leave everything as it is. You upgrade them also to you strengthen the tangible heritage in such a way that you're actually enhancing the life of the property. That's the whole thing, right? So you need to upgrade all of that, and they were doing that. So integrated planning system were one of the key objectives. And most importantly, they were sticking to implementation of existing heritage regulations. And because they were looking at World Heritage tag, obviously the standard had to match the World Heritage expectations, and they had to confirm those charters and things like that. That was one of the basic rule to get a World Heritage site, remember. So that is something that they also looked at. And some of the important heritage property other than the houses were pole gate, and they had this black board where they would write, which was located in the chowk, the pole gate, where they would carry announcements of the dates for the festivals, weddings, or any other information which is all community related, where inhabitants of the pole use that blackboard as an announcement board. So that was a important heritage thing that they had to conserve. And the other one was mohalla mathas, the shrines of Hindu or Jain. There are a lot of Hindus and Jain pole, Hindu pole, Muslim pole. So they have different community living here, and each one they have their own poles, they call it as. So there they would have these ritual places of pujas or prayers and daily offerings. So those were the important heritage properties that they had to look at. And others were water pots, and they can be often found sitting atop of the podium for thirsty passengers. This such a nice community sense of empathy towards people who passed the city back then. It is a heritage from the past, where whenever people passed these entrances of the poles, that they could quench their thirst here. So those perhaps became very important. And another important thing was this chabutros, so bird feeding, feeders frequently placed in smaller community spaces, and they were made up like a post supporting a platform, supported from a platform, and they kind of converted into an awning at the top, where chabutaras were provided spaces for birds either to sit, or to drink water or whatever, that particular part in the top. So this is something that that they cared for the environment and nature, urban environment and things like that. And their well is another important heritage property that they looked at. So all of these were kind of restored, renovated, and conserved as an urban insert. And coming to intangible heritage, very quickly we'll go through ICOMOS. What is it doing now? They are conducting a lot of things, in that forum. And recently they conducted a convention where they were trying to propose Bihu, which is a dance from Assam, a traditional dance. As they were trying to look at this as which is a national festival of Assam, for intangible heritage, world heritage thing. So they were working on that. That is a intangible heritage work going on. Other than that, I would like all of you to make a note of Sahapedia. It is a very interesting NGO, which is actually an open online source of arts, cultures, and heritage of India. Saha means in Sanskrit together. So Sahapedia means they work together, and they invite to explore together the richness of the cultural landscapes. So a lot of people who have done, individuals who have done research on intangible heritage, they would have published papers, and a lot of information relating to non intangible heritage is found here. So these are the two forums which work on intangible heritage as well. And almost coming to the last slide. Of course, way forward is something that we always have to look up to, and challenges are immense. Conservation with respect to heritage is not so simple as we all see it. We need to gain a lot of experience and understanding of the depth of the heritage that we have and that we need to conserve. So if with that challenge, I think the first important point, like it was also mentioned yesterday by one of our participant, that education is very, very important. I completely agree with. And we all know that education starts right from home, and mother is the first teacher, right, for the children. This the on the left, which we've been seeing in every session, the starting screen displays this. This is done by my daughter, and this was done because we were talking at home when about the government ideas and plans for improving or targeting a lot of very issues which are very intense and very important to sustain as a nation, for a future thing. And water is always discussed at home, and what we do is we make sure that when she is around, we talk a lot of positive things which is happening with respect to politics and government. It is very unfair to give a negative. Whatever we feel largely will be negative, and we're never satisfied with whatever interventions or whatever things that is always done by the government, naturally. So my suggestion is, if all of us at home talk more about positive things that is happening in and around with respect to nature and heritage, and also to stress point that heritage is very, very important for us to have, and that we should protect it and transfer it to the next generation. We were talking about one such thing recently, where we were talking about that proposed project of interlinking river, and that kind of solves major problem, water issue in the northern part of India. So when we were discussing, these children know, they're always listening to you, they're always seeing, observing you. So what you do, they keep observing. They may not immediately follow you, but it will all be sinking in into their head. And when we were having this discussion, we didn't realize that it would become so important for her, that she came up with this, when she was trying to participate for a competition back in school, where they expected them to talk about unity, and connecting India. So largely, kids of today talk about the gadgets and advancement that is happening, and how they can connect India in a different way, portraying the futuristic ideas of India. But I was shocked. Actually, we were shocked to see this, because her line of thinking was interlinking rivers. So by interlinking rivers, you are interlinking or connecting the cultures. So when the cultures are connected, you are trying to unite India or people of India. So her logic was that solving the most important issue, water issue of people, through this connection, not only solves the problem of water, but also connects culturally, intellectually, and physically these different cultures of India, and thereby India is united and it is connected. So these kind of thoughts come to children when we probably largely talk on these lines. So I think education should start at home first, and of course, in the schools, conservation and heritage should be chapters which should be discussed in schools, as the most significant and important chapters, rather than we look at it as a professional extension only. That is one. And of course, training is very much needed. We are undertrained. We have a lot of people, laborers working, but they're all undertrained. So I think we need to train people with these indigenous knowledge, or at least the exchange of knowledge, Katie, that has to happen, should be encouraged largely, and therefore we retain most of the indigenous construction techniques, or whatever, with respect to all other cultural heritages. And largely, these also need a lot of promotion. We invest so much money on buying junk and plastic and things like that. So as we are getting more aware of ecology and sustainability, climate change, and all of these global issues, the more we think of it, the more we realize that our indigenous practices had more sustainable way of living. They were more eco-friendly, and they were more sustainable because of their traditional way of doing things and practicing things. That does not mean that they are slow, or they consume a lot of time, or things like that. But I'll give you one quick example. The rosewood inlay, that is one of our products in Pratma Shrishti. Not one single person can actually produce this particular handicraft. It requires 9 different expertise to produce one product over 4 or 5 days, and they use only natural wood to do this. Jackfruit tree and so many other trees that they take, and the raw material is different trees. Now what they do is they grow trees, because it is not sustainable. No, once you deforest, then what to do for the next set of raw material? So they have the habit of replanting, and that is a kind of continuous planned activity which runs behind as they produce these handicrafts. And so many people are involved in it, communities are involved in it, and they engage, different expertise come into picture. So they work as a team. It is not a product which can be produced by one single person. So that encourages team working, that encourages economical viability and efficiency. So when I do something very particularly for a long time, then I become an expert in that. So a lot of expertise develops over a period of time. So the practice and the method and the planning, they lots to learn from these traditional heritage system that we always have, be it construction or producing or manufacturing any products for that matter. So I think promotion for such indigenous products should gear up, and lastly, but most importantly, people's participation. All said and done, it should not be a professional's job, or it should not be an NGO's job or government's job to do all this. I think we as citizens, as people together, should come and participate ourselves and get engaged in more such activities, so that we help the nation to retain most of the intellectual, intangible, tangible, all kind of heritage, natural, cultural, everything. All that we have is heritage, and that we need to protect, and we should unite and come as with the sense of belonging as a nation. The sense of belonging is very, very important, and that should not restrict yourself with to your religion or your personal property, but it should extend for the nation, and it's only then that we can do something. And lastly, to conclude, just before we conclude, I would like to highlight one more important thing, that there was also another point of discussion in one of the sessions, that we lack documentation. Very true, we lack documentation. But fortunately, in the current times, government and a lot of other intac and ASI organizations, they are taking up a lot of 3D and laser mapping, documenting these built heritage sites that we have, and a wonderful technique that they have come up with, advanced technique, where it largely does this documentation with perfection. So human error is also very, very less. The Karnataka State Council of Science and Technology, they have completed about 3D, about 105 monuments of this in this 3D and laser mapping, and they are doing a lot of other things also. So all of this under Department of Archaeology, Museum and Heritage in Bangalore, they are doing this, and other states have also progressed a lot in terms of this. And a huge project of documentation of Konark temple also is going on, and Belur Halebeedu temple, many temple actually. This activity is advanced activity, and future documentation, advanced documentation process is happening. So that's a good news for all of us. And moving forward, I think this is an assignment for myself and not all of you, because this is the last class. And a very nice, interesting thing is that, a couple of people, I would just name a few, Anuja, Shilpi, Amrita, Bandana, and some more. They have all sent nice assignments. I thought I could just compile that and share it in the group for all of your consumption, with permission of each of you who have submitted the assignment. I think this is an assignment for me, which I will, with all of your permission, will do it in a day or two. And with that, I thank all of you for being so patient and attending this 7 days sessions. Sir? Hello, Bhopte sir? I think he joined. Yeah, must be
Till that
problem.